War of the Worlds. Part of the purpose of my channel is to share tips, whether you're in high school, college, university, or a lifelong learner doing some of your own research. I like to share some of the different things that I've found useful, things that I've shared with students over my 23 years as an EA to help support and guide them during their learning. Today I look at what I did to put together a special on War of the Worlds for October the 31st. Some people have Christmas traditions. I have a Halloween tradition. Every year I listen to the musical War of the Worlds. I read War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, which is one of the books in the box set that I read earlier this year. The next thing that I did was to go online and I went to Goodreads to get a summary of the book. Then I went to the History Channel, which provided information on the broadcast that occurred on October the 30th, 1938, as well as information about H.G. Wells himself. The next website that I went to was Britannica, which gave information about H.G. Wells, the work that he produced. Next, I went to onlineliterature.com, which provided some information about H.G. I'll leave the names of the sites that I use down below in case you want to go check some things out yourself. There were a number of interesting facts that I learned going through the different sources to check at least 3 or 4 different sources of information. An interesting point that I found on the biography website, for roughly 50 years, Wells devoted his life to writing, and his output during that time was amazing. On average, Wells wrote 3 books a year. Each of his works went through several drafts before publication. I'm stressing that part because, as a former educational assistant, it some days truly boggled my mind how students would put up such a fuss about completing one assignment that was a few pages long. I think it's very important to remember that if you're going to do something, take the time to do it well and take pride in what you're producing and what you're completing. After I found the information and printed it off, I went through and I highlighted and I made different comments and points that I wanted to cover in my video. The next step after reading the novel, doing the research, printing out the material, reading the material and highlighting the points, I then decided, what do I want to talk about? So I knew that I wanted to mention the music video as well as the book. If you've watched my previous videos, you've seen that I have papers moving, that I refer to both the papers and the books that I'm talking about. There's a number of different reasons for that. Number one, my concentration. I can easily get thrown off track. As we used to joke at work, squirrel, and off you go. So for me, having something written out is very important because there are certain points that I want to cover, and I try not to get thrown off track. And by having the paper in front of me, it's a quick double check that I've covered what I wanted to. My notes begin with a brief discussion about War of the Worlds, a question that I asked and that I answer at the end of that particular video, information about Wells, his work ethic. Then I have notes about the musical in what I wanted to say. I talk about the novel, and I finish with information about the radio broadcast, and then I wrote out the answer to the question that I'd asked earlier, so that as I'm going through my notes, I can quickly check and make sure that I've covered all the points. The skills that I've shared today can be applied to more than just making a video for YouTube. You can apply it to your own learning regardless of the subject, because the steps are always the same. First, read your material, and I recommend reading it more than once, whether that's a novel, an article, or a chapter in the textbook. Do some additional research and find out what other opinions are out there. Then, if you're doing a paper for school, then do some jot notes along the way. So you can do as I did, if you have a printout, underline material, make comments on that, write out or type out notes in point form. And always be sure that you're putting things into your own words. If you're quoting from something, then make sure to use quotations. Never pass off somebody else's work as your own. If you found this video to be helpful or beneficial, then please be sure to leave a like and leave me a comment down below. Are these some of the things you do if you're a content creator to prepare before you make a video? Do you think some of these tips are helpful for students and lifelong learners? Until next time, happy reading!